Hello there. It's me, Kat Hobson with Paranormal Experienced. I'm so glad that you are here tonight because I have someone I think is going to be just a brilliant guest. I wanted to let y'all know that Phyllis Scotty, who owns Fate Magazine and Fate Magazine Radio, is fine. Um, she sent me a picture of the goats. They're fine. And we are revamping the setup for Fate Mag Radio so that it's easier for people to find and to find the archives. So be looking for those changes. It's going to be awesome. And I am so excited because, people are so coming together. North Carolina is really being taken care of thanks to the governor in Florida and all of their EMS people. This stuff down there is not as bad as it could have been. Still hideous. So please continue donating to both of those areas. Um, I am, in fact, I'm wearing my Maui Strong Lehana shirt, and my Appalachian Strong is coming because I love that area. The Blue Ridge Parkway is closed indefinitely, really, and that's one of my favorite drives, and that's where I go when I do my spook light investigations. So there's a lot of people whose lives have been permanently changed. And if you could just keep all of them in your mind, because you know what? If not for Providence, whatever, there go all of us. And they just need to be, if you can't donate, just pray for them. Because you know what? There's power in that too. Now, I have to tell you that my guest tonight is another jail owner. I'm so excited because y'all know Portals to Hell was the show I was in with Shelley Robertson's jail, the old Paulding jail, which is so much fun to investigate and has such interaction with the spirits. But this is Chris Sumner, and she owns the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. She is also the founder of Soul Sisters Paranormal, and we're going to talk about something called Haunted Rugby After Dark. And now I've already read about it when I was checking her out, so this is going to be so much fun. So, Chris, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Kat. I appreciate you having me tonight.
Well, thanks for being had, man.
I've been looking forward to this interview for a while, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
You know, I we don't know each other personally. That's going to change because I'm planning to come up and investigate your jail.
We hope you
But
have,
you didn't know that, but
we hope you
uh,
do. We'd love to have you.
well, I'm coming. But there's a lot of different questions about how did you come to become a haunted location owner and why the historic Scott County Jail?
Well, it's an interesting road, and I just have to tell you, I do have a little jail cat here, so if she pops in and
Yay!
out, I apologize in
Oh,
advance.
I've
This is
got a
our
dog
celebrity
snoozing over
cat,
there.
and she wants to be seen.
I love
But
it.
so my best friend and business partner is Miranda Young from Ghost Biker
Right.
Explorations, and we met about 7 years ago now, and became fast friends. We followed each other's shows. I followed Ghost Biker. She followed Soul Sisters, and we did some investigations together, and we, like I said, we became fast friends. Now she's from Scott County, Tennessee, which is
Okay.
where the jail is at, and she was working down in Chattanooga, and I was actually living in Florida during COVID, and she ended up losing her job, and a couple other life experiences happened during COVID, so she had to move back up here to Scott County, and we had talked about finding a location where we could open a true crime museum as well as what we call a paranormal research center.
Right.
And so we are both very much advocates of historic preservation. So when she had to move back up here to Scott County, she knew the jail had been sitting vacant since 2008. So we put together a business plan. We approached the mayor and the alderman here in Huntsville, and laid out our business plan to them, and they loved it. And so what we do is we actually rent the jail. We set up the entire museum business, so we own the business, and we open it up for day tours where you can come and explore the jail and its history. And then we have after dark activities where we can do flashlight tours, guided ghost hunts, paranormal investigations. We have an escape room, and so it really has filled a niche here in Scott County because it allows the jail to be preserved. As I said before, it was sitting vacant until we kind of took it over. So the jail is being preserved, the history is being preserved, which is extremely important to us. But then we have that paranormal aspect, which is bringing tourism into the area as well.
Is it very active?
Very much so. Very much so. I'm going to sound biased when I say this, but I've been
You're
to
supposed to.
I've been to some of the most reportedly haunted locations in the country, and I can honestly say I've never experienced anything like what we have here at the jail. I mean, it's day and night. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something while we're on this podcast, or see something as well, because it just happens all the time. Our jail loves to talk. The spirits here, I think, are very receptive to the fact that we are telling their stories and continuing to keep their presence alive. And I think that's why they reciprocate by showing us how active they are. But we've had people come in here, paranormal investigators. They've experienced disembodied voices, shadow figures, apparitions, pictures coming off the wall, footsteps on the back stairs. So it's a great location to investigate.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm bringing people with me too.
We'd love to have you.
But what is your most forward spirit?
We have a lot of spirits that we identify with events that have happened here at the jail. I think our most active spirit is the spirit of Sheriff Richard Ellis. He was killed right
That's
outside the front
always the
door.
way.
Yeah, he was killed right outside the front door here in 1925. It's still an unsolved murder. His body was brought into the jail and laid in state here for 3 days after he was killed. But he seemed to be very active. He was also a Baptist preacher, and so when we play things like Amazing Grace or any hymn, he tends to make his presence known. We've captured him on camera. Miranda and I, on the anniversary of his death this year, August 13th, we actually did a live here at the jail, and we had an experience that I've never experienced before. We both had tripwires, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with that
Yeah.
piece of equipment, but she had a tripwire right outside the door where he was killed. So she's outside, and
Hmm.
these walls are each 4 feet by 5 feet by six
Sure.
feet thick. So right, they're
Yeah.
big solid stone, sandstone bricks. So I was behind this wall right here. So we're about 30 feet away, and we're divided by three separate walls. And we were both in the live stream, so kind of like you and I can be seen on the screen together. She and I were seen on the screen together, and we were having simultaneous tripwire activity. I would ask, Richard Ellis, are you here? Can you touch the lights? And both the lights would touch or go off at the same time. So that was an interesting experience for us. So we do think that he is one of our active spirits here.
That is so interesting. And that's a cool tool.
Hmm.
When we were in Scotland, and one of the investigators with us had that, and we were able to investigate a hotel in Perth where we were staying, and that's really, they can be so interactive with that.
Hmm. Yeah, and it runs the gamut here. When we investigate, an EVP is fantastic. The EDI box going off is awesome. The tripwire is going off. But when we have simultaneous things happening on different pieces
Yes.
of equipment at the same time, and we're getting, physical evidence as well, such as the disembodied voice or seeing an apparition, that really tells us that something's going on here. And quite frequently, that's what's happening when teams come. They get simultaneous events happening or multiple things happening during the night that validates things that are occurring here at the jail. So like I said, our spirits, we're very connected to them. I think it's almost like a team environment here, where we protect them by telling their history, by telling their story, and they kind of protect us by letting us know that they're here. And it's just a great relationship that we have with our spirits. Every time we have a team come in, we go up and talk to them. We sit down. We say, okay, this is XYZ team coming from Georgia. The members' names are Sally, Sue, and John. just let them know that you're here, talk to them. And so because of that, we have a lot of teams that get voices, get their name called while they're here as well. So like I said, it's a great experience to be involved with. It's one of those things. If you would have asked me 10 years if I'd be in a jail in rural Tennessee, I'd say no. But it's a great experience.
It's a far stretch from Coral Gables, isn't it?
It's a far stretch from everywhere,
It
um,
really
but
is. But
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
well, my research partner, well, first of all, hi, Tom McNicholas, who is in chat, and my research partner, Lori Dorsey, is in chat. And she has been, because I haven't been able to get up to Ohio, she and Shelley Robertson, the owner of Paulding, have been doing some really intense experimentation up there.
Hmm.
And been a multi year project. So
Hmm.
I'm interested to see the kind of research that you're doing too. That's going to be fun.
Hmm.
But
And that's really what we wanted it to be. We
yeah,
wanted, again, the history to be the forefront of what we do. So, for example, if you go to our website, the historical component is really the forward
yes,
facing marketing tool behind what we do. And then
yes,
you kind of delve into what we do after dark.
yeah,
And that was by design. And,
yeah.
because we are here in the Bible Belt and we want that history to be the driving factor. But honestly, the paranormal is what keeps our lights on and it allows us to pay our bills. And so, because of that, like I said, I think it's a great partnership all the way around with what we're doing because we've extensively researched historic preservation through after dark tourism, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We've got this amazing model where we're contributing to the economy. We pay the town of Huntsville a rent. We've relieved the taxpayer of the burden of the jail, so we take all of that burden, and we keep the history alive. So that is really what we wanted to do with this business.
Well, in looking at the pictures that you have posted up about the jail, um, the museum side is fabulous.
Thank you.
You've done a really good job with that. Was the city helpful in setting helping you get a system in place to curate those items, or
No, no,
was
this
it
really,
just
I
you?
mean, they were supportive, but really what we wanted to do was come in and build this from the ground up ourselves. Neither one of us have museum experience, so we just learned by kind of trial and error, but we knew we wanted a certain look. And that was, again, forced first and foremost to tell the history of the building, to tell the history of our sheriffs and our deputies and our law enforcement officials, as well as our 911 dispatch center that works tirelessly here for the county. So we wanted to put all of that facing forward, and there's certain elements that we knew we wanted. I wanted an audio tour, so as you go through the different rooms, you can have an audio tour going, and we wanted different displays, and so it was really something that we've built from the ground up, and we've won numerous awards from different museum associations across the state. So we're very proud of that. And like I said, because of that, it's one of those things where we've gotten recognitions on both facets, both the historical side, the historic preservation side, but also from the paranormal side. So for us to be known as a location that is really enriching the history or preserving the history of the location, as well as a legitimate paranormal investigation location or research location, that's something that we're extremely proud of.
Well, you should be, because I can only imagine the work that went into getting it to that level. It's
Mhm.
um, it's not an easy task, especially when you're dealing with antiquities,
Mhm.
because there are rules about that.
Mhm.
And as I'm sure you found out, right?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of people donate different things. We've had detectives come in and donate different things, uniforms, badges, detective manuals, and such. We've had the families of officers or sheriffs come in. Our current sheriff, Brian Keaton, he donated some stuff as well. And so it really was a community effort in that respect. We kind of put out an all call, and it took a minute for people to understand what we were doing. And once they realized that we were legitimately preserving the history and telling the history of Scott County to a different audience in just a different way,
Yes.
people became very receptive to that. We've through the paranormal, we've been featured on magazines, international magazines. We've been on every news station in Knoxville and in East Tennessee. We've been written about in magazines, both national and international. And we've brought exposure and tourism dollars to an area that is extremely distressed. And so, again, that's something that we're extremely proud of. And it really all just started with Miranda and I sitting down and getting a business plan together and knowing what we wanted to do and what our standards were going to be. And we set that bar very high for each other. And I think we've accomplished quite a lot. There's still a lot to do, but we've accomplished quite a lot.
What's still on your going forward list? What's your next big thing that you want to do?
Well, you mentioned at the top of the show that we have historic rugby after dark. Now, rugby is a utopian village that was formed in 1880. It's about 20 minutes from the jail, and they have what's called a living museum. So during its heyday in the 1880s, there's about 68 structures that were there in this little utopian village, and there's still 14 of the original 1880 structures remaining.
Oh
And so they
wow.
have a museum that operates daily, but they didn't have any nighttime after dark activities. And so we formed a partnership with them to run all of their after dark programming. So we do guided lantern tours, we do guided ghost hunts, we do paranormal investigations. And so that's really what we want to do. We want to just take this idea of historic preservation through after dark tourism and really kind of march it down to locations that are really searching for different revenue dollars. As I said before, I've been extensively researching this for about 2 years now, and after dark tourism is a $30 billion a year industry.
Yes.
And so when you see museums that are struggling for revenue, especially after COVID, to be able to approach them and say, we can help you design this, we can help you get those dollars from a unique perspective. That's something that we're trying to do and that we want to do. To help other locations really preserve their history, but do it with a unique mechanism.
Are you finding that maybe people in your town and people that you know have other locations that the potential for the haunting is strong? Um, are they receptive to you, or are you having to kind of finesse that?
They are to a point. What we do is we lead with the revenue aspect, right? So, for example, when we put our business plan forward before the town of Huntsville,
Mm-hmm.
we had a 30 slide PowerPoint, and we didn't mention the paranormal until about slide 17. And it's really about what how we can bring revenue dollars to a town that's already distressed or a location that's already distressed,
Yeah.
and to be able to do that and really fulfill the business plan that we set forward is really exciting for us. And so like I said, I've researched this for a while. In January of this year, I actually did a survey to 700 locations across the country, historic locations and museums, and I sent a survey to these locations asking them basically their opinions on after dark tourism. Now, some were extremely receptive. Some said absolutely not. We're not interested in participating in any of that. But like I said, when you turn around and say, listen, there is money to be had here, especially after COVID, people get very, very receptive to that.
Well, I'm going to tell you that someplace that I wish that you would reach out to, and if you already have, kudos to you. But there is an iconic location in Birmingham
Mhm.
that went from being rough and ready, well, ready to fall down. you know, um, they had let part of it go for like Fright Nights kind of thing for Halloween, and that was all that was ever done there. It's in a derelict area that is starting to be gentrified,
Mhm.
which would be nice,
Mhm.
but it's Lost Furnaces.
Yeah, sloth
And
furnace.
everybody knows Sloss Furnaces,
Hmm.
but and they would have probably not been in a position to become a museum without the paranormal.
Hmm.
But now it's a very proper museum,
Yeah.
and I think that you can do weddings there, which is
Hmm.
really kind of funny, and because I've seen a ghost at the wedding, but anyway, and it is. it's one of the most active places I've ever investigated in my life. It's so fun, and it's not wicked scary. It's just people working, you
Hmm.
know. And and sometimes they're feisty. That's okay. But, I mean, you're bothering me while I'm working, get out of my face. But anyway, that would be a great target for that,
Hmm.
because when it became a museum, I spoke with the museum director, and I was like, look, you should really dance with the one that brought you. Why have you banned paranormal investigation here?
Hmm.
That's just not right. And she got really offended
Hmm.
because I am kind of blunt sometimes. But I mean, that's the way I looked at it. And so I noticed on their website that they've added, like, one Friday a month or something, a ghost tour, a ghost walk. And, but I'm more the bull in the china shop thing, and I didn't know how to approach the way that you do. But I'm going to suggest that you reach out there, because that would be quite, it'd be a feather in your cap, but mainly it would be really a, you know, the paranormal community has lost so much by
Yeah,
not being able to go someplace that's so extremely haunted, because it's still very haunted.
it has, but on the flip side, the paranormal community has shifted.
Yep.
And by that I mean it there's still a core group of people who are very much interested in, one, historic preservation, and two, putting together a historic narrative of these locations that is
Yes.
valid and just.
Yes.
But you see this group of people coming up that are more interested in TikTok and Instagram likes and
Yes.
views, and I think that has really done a disservice. So, for example,
I would agree with you.
the survey that I put out, basically I asked the question, why are you, if you're against this paranormal investigations or after dark activities at all? I mean, it could be anything from a guided ghost hunt to a flashlight tour. If you're against this, why? And it's because of the negative stigma, right? Nobody wants to be associated with anything quote unquote demonic or evil, or that type of look. And I completely understand it. That's why for the historic Scott County Jail here and for historic Rugby After Dark, you sign a waiver when you come in that if you mention demonic activity
Yeah.
on anything social media, either verbally or written, we will sue you. And we will fine you $10,000 because you're voicing that, and because it's not true. We will get you for libel and slander. And I think if more locations took that stance, then we could kind of do away with some of this this negativity that has been perpetuated by people who aren't paranormal investigators, but more thrill seekers and YouTube really quote unquote celebrities.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that there is a difference between the true paranormal investigation groups and those that want to be famous off of paranormal. Um, they're they're
100%.
they're two very different groups, and I think that's the reason why some of these locations are very standoffish about that. Um,
Yeah.
like I said, we had to present to Huntsville with the Village of Rugby. We did the exact same thing. We will not, and we've made it very clear, we will not let your locations be demonized in any way on our watch. And that's what people are really receptive to.
Well, that's a big deal. We
Hmm.
also, at Sloss, there's a circumstance where a gentleman from a television show climbed up the water tower and put his name on it.
Hmm.
And that's defacing public property.
Hmm.
And that's a big no, as any responsible investigator knows. But I mean, he probably didn't think anybody would ever see it, right?
Well,
But yet, drones came along.
hmm.
So, there is a problem with the fact that that was an extraordinarily public figure defacing their property. And
Hmm.
that was before it was a museum. So,
Hmm.
it's just really, they've done what you did as far as the museum goes. They've got a beautiful museum. And then, they host, like, you know, uh, gumbo festival and weddings, and there's a rock event as well. So
Hmm.
it's they're open to tourism. They're just not open to the the paranormal aspect of that.
Hmm.
And I think that they're really missing out on some, like I said, dance with the one that brought you,
Hmm.
because you
And
wouldn't have a place to be a museum if it weren't for the paranormal community.
agreed. And there are ways, right? There are ways to marry those two things together, to keep the historical narrative accurate and at the same time give a mechanism for paranormal investigators to come in and
Yes,
investigate. It is absolutely a possibility to achieve, and people need to understand that. I mean, I can't fault anybody for saying, listen, I don't want anything associated with this after dark tourism. I don't want anything associated with paranormal investigations. That's not what we're about. That's fine. I understand that. But then
sure.
when you're crying for revenue dollars and we're presenting a different mechanism for you to do that, then you need to look a little bit harder at how you can achieve that, how you can achieve and marry those two things, because it doesn't mean that you've got to let paranormal investigators come in and run roughshod through the location, right?
Exactly.
Start with a ghost walk, start with a flashlight tour,
Well,
start
they
with a
do have a
guided ghost
ghost
hunt.
walk sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then work up to when you feel comfortable, work up into doing paranormal investigations. Miranda and I are very fortunate because we were able to look at both sides of this. We're looking at it as location owners, but we're also looking at it as paranormal investigators. I've been an investigator since 2012. She's been an investigator since 2010. So we had that really cool experience of having worked both sides of it. And
Sure.
so we can speak pretty, confidently to the fact that it can be done. You just have to make sure that your expectations are set right in advance. I mean, the first time you allow somebody to come in and say this place is evil or demonic, you've lost it.
You have.
Pandora's box is open and you're not going to be able to get that back. We're working with a couple of locations that are trying to pull that back now and rein that back, and it's tough.
It
It's
is
very
tough.
tough.
Yes.
So, like I said, I think it's possible to do. And if any location is interested, we can help them do that. But right now, like I said, we're really proud of what we've done both here at the jail and at rugby.
You should be.
Thanks.
What is your favorite activity at rugby?
I love our lantern tours. We've got two really cool lantern tours. I lead one that is in the village, and we go from house to house. From the 1880s, we go into each of the houses, telling the history and all of that. And then Miranda does what's called the North Village and Cemetery tour. And so she has a great tour that talks about Appalachian folklore and legends and Victorian mourning practices, because Rugby is a British colony, a British town, and so that's really cool. But then, paranormally speaking, we get activity in the schoolhouse, in a house called Kingstone Lisle, in a house called the Newberry House, Uffington House. Basically, again, it runs the gambit. Everything from seeing apparitions to the tripwires going crazy. There's a young spirit of a young kid that runs around and is very mischievous and active, and we love interacting with him. So it's just a really cool location, again, to learn some interesting history, and really marry the paranormal experiences with it.
That sounds like such a fun thing.
It
I'm just
is.
even if you're not doing the rugby after dark, whatever time I get to come, will you still do that tour with me?
Yeah, no, we do it year round. So Rugby
That would
After
be
Dark is
so
year
fun.
round. Yep, Rugby After Dark is year round, and we've got climate control here at the jail. So
Yeah.
paranormal investigations are year round. And yeah, it's like I said, it's been we've been very fortunate to do what we do.
What kind of apparitions are you getting in the rugby village?
Well, we've had shadow figures. There's been a couple teams who have seen full-bodied apparition to the point where they can describe what the gentleman is wearing. He's typically seen in one of the houses up on the second floor, which is interesting because the second floor is not you can't access it if you're a guest. We've seen shadow figures of a little kid. We think we know who he is. He actually died in rugby, and he's very active. And it's again one of those locations that is extremely unique in its history, and therefore the investigations are unique. It's a little bit different than going into the jail where you can walk up 3 flights of stairs and go from cell to cell. Here, you actually get access to 5 different houses in the cemetery. So it's a really cool village to investigate.
That is such a cool thing.
Hmm.
With your jail, um, was your was it in the era when the sheriffs resided there?
Hmm.
So you had
Yep.
the residence area as well as dispatch and kitchens and the whole bit.
Correct. Yep. So the jail was built in 1904. It was in operation as the county jail until 2008. And the room that I'm sitting in right now, it originally was the living room for the jailer's quarters. After the 1970s, the jailer moved offsite. So all of the rooms down here were then reconverted into either cells or administration offices. So from the 1970s up until it closed until in 2008, this room that I'm sitting in right now was the booking room. So you can see back here. This is where they would take the mug shots.
Yeah.
Back here on this board behind me, those are actual missing persons and wanted persons posters that were hanging there the night the jail closed in 2008. This over here is a intake board where they would write names of the inmates that were assigned to the cells upstairs. So just a lot of history. Again, we had a family member of a little girl who was born here. She was the daughter of one of the sheriffs.
Oh wow.
So they had a family reunion here last week. 20 of them came in and got to see where their grandma was born. So that was really neat.
That
So
is
again,
neat.
yeah, it is. So we have her picture up, and her son is one of the narrations on one of the audio tour stops, and so that really again brings that connection back to the families that lived here, as well as the inmates and all of that.
When you came in, did you go through and I'm having a struggle with the earbud here,
No
so I apologize. But
worries.
um did you go through and clean everything out, get everything back to operational standards?
As far as operational as a jail, no.
Well, I mean, like, is the cleanliness and is it
Yeah, so
all
we
just like somebody walked out?
Yeah, so we got the keys in July of 2021, and we opened in September. So from July to September, we were in here cleaning. We were buying display cases. We were finding research about the different stories here in the jail, as well as in the town of Huntsville. Basically, we just spent those months really doing a deep dive into everything that we could find out about the area, about the jail. Now, like I said, Miranda's from here, so she knows a lot of the families that were associated with the jail, and sometimes she's actually related to them. So we were able to find inmates that actually spent time in here. We were able to find former jailers, former sheriffs, former dispatch that worked in here. So we gathered all of their stories, and they're all part of either our audio tour or the daytime tour or nighttime tours that we give here. So yeah, we were able to really go in and, like I said, do that deep dive and get that historical narrative extremely accurate.
That's so cool. I mean, every aspect of that is so cool. What did, what was the, I mean, because not just anybody's going to go do this, right?
Right,
And,
right.
you know, um, my friend, who I'm sure is a mutual friend,
Hmm.
Ronnie D, who did that at Old South Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And that place had become, I was, I was there the last time before they had to close it and it was going to auction.
Hmm.
I can't
Lucky you.
believe he saw the potential
Hmm.
and bought it
Hmm.
because there would, and it's one of the best
It's awesome. Old
paranormal
Top Hip
research
is
centers.
awesome.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, I mean, but for people that don't, it is one of the most pristine locations I've ever been in.
Hmm.
And, like, you know, you can cook in the kitchen.
Yeah, and he
you
did.
know,
He
you're
did.
not you're
They
not
do.
afraid you're not afraid to drink the coffee there.
Yeah, yeah.
But but that and I have not been to Harriman Hospital yet.
Harriman's awesome. I like
Yeah,
Harriman a lot.
and Ronnie
It's
is just
about
like,
45 minutes from here.
okay, good to know because when
Hmm.
I come up, I'm planning to. hit
Do all of it.
Harriman, and go up to Octagon and get a hug off Bear, right?
Yeah,
So
there you go.
it's all good. It's gonna be a round robin.
There you go. Got
But
and put rugby right in the middle of that.
absolutely, I am
Hmm.
thrilled about rugby. I just spent 3 weeks earlier in the year in Scotland. In fact, Lori was with me, and our
Hmm.
friends Rick McCollum, a bunch of other people. Mikey's uh, Mikey was the best drone person on the Mikey
Uh-huh.
Thompson. If you haven't interviewed him, you should talk to him because
Okay.
he is brilliant. But anyway, so I'm not adverse to hitting because we were hitting them
Yeah.
like that. So we were
Hmm.
working with history and horror tours. They were
Hmm.
our chauffeurs. They took us everywhere, and then Inverness Paranormal and Scottish Paranormal are some of my good friends. And in fact, I'm going to tell people because I had Lee Dunn on the air with me not long ago. Wow! But he told me if I got his book Medium that I would know him much too well. I do know everything about him now. But this is called An Angel by My Side. This
Oh,
is a Lee
cool.
Dunn book. So if you're interested in mediumship and understanding the true story about an encounter with the Archangel Azrael, so that's that's uh, that's that's a
That's
good
awesome.
guy. All of the people that are, if you ever go with Scottish Paranormal
Okay.
and get them to investigate with you because they are brilliant. We will get you the hookup.
Very cool.
but
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
but it's so much fun to be able to go and see your friends that love the
Hmm.
paranormal like you do,
Hmm.
and just to get to be able to go and because Miranda gets around,
She does. Yeah.
she is everywhere,
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
and and I've never met her face to face either, which is really weird and funny. But it's just so much fun to get to go and interact. And in fact, Tom and the second Tom in chat, and if I put my glasses on, I could read his last name. We're gonna go
Nally?
old time Nelly.
Yeah.
So, and he was talking about when you're talking to the property owners, he never he doesn't trespass or deface property, and like you said, the word demon is not allowed,
Hmm.
and because people, I don't think people realize, right, that you can speak that into being too. And if you're constantly tossing that out and that's what you're looking for, you're eventually going to find it. That's not nearly as much fun as you may think it's going to
Right,
be
right,
because
right.
that's some
And
serious stuff.
right, and I do think that those individuals that are doing that, they're not in it to find it. They're in it for clicks and likes and subscribes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these people got into it because they saw that everybody, whether you say you're not,
Yeah.
you're into the paranormal, right? Everybody has some type of belief of something that's going to happen to them after they die, whether you just stop
Yeah.
being, or you go to heaven, or you go to another dimension or
Well,
another
we're
universe.
curious about what we're
Right,
going to.
exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody is curious. And so I think that this younger generation is capitalizing on that, that interest, that intrigue. And again, they're not in it for historic preservation. They're not in it to get the correct historical narrative. I mean, we had one come in, didn't give a flying flip about anything that we do here on the history. He just wanted to go up and start banging up on the third floor and see if he could get our spirits to scare him. And that is absolutely not what we're about. And so from that point on, every person that comes in here, every team gets a history tour.
Yeah.
That's the first 30 minutes of your investigation. And especially if you put together a YouTube video, you will tell the historical narrative accurately, and put it out there that, again, we're not anything that's going to be evil or demonic. We have no portals here, nothing like that. We just have a very rich history and spirits that love to tell their stories.
Well, sure.
Hmm.
Well, because, you know, to me, that's priceless.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because they don't have to communicate with you.
No,
They
no.
their job's done. They're there because that's where they're comfortable, where they want to be for whatever reason that they are drawn to stay there. I mean, they're not they're not trained monkeys or
Correct.
any other kind of beast.
Hmm.
They're just people.
Right.
And when I do get a little cranked up about that too because you know I was in stuff that was you know a lot older than our country, and the place that I really expected to have something negative if I was going to was Mingus Castle.
Hmm.
We it's spelled Menzies. They say Mingus.
Hmm.
I don't know why. But in fact, I have had that discussion with, you know, my friend Gregor, who is the historian for Scottish Paranormal, and he just rolls his eyes at me. But, and by the way, for anybody listening, including Greg later, I misspelled his last name. And his name is Gregor Stewart, and I put UART instead of
Right.
EWART. And the the Scots are a very proud people, and that's a very special name in
Hmm.
Scotland. So, Gregor, if you're watching this, and I know you will, I apologize, and I fixed it.
Oh,
So, but he's written like 22 books.
wow.
I mean, seriously, he is such an historian.
That's
But,
awesome.
but I digress. But we didn't come across anything in maybe once, but in any of the places we went that made me go, I'm not coming back here.
Hmm.
This is not where I'm welcome.
Right.
And, you know, we did get to see the death mask of Bonnie Prince Charlie, though, so that
Wow.
was pretty cool. So, because they had to do that to prove the death,
Yeah.
right? Because no, everybody didn't,
Hmm.
you know, they weren't going to believe that. And they used wax.
Wow.
So it was just like, talk about getting waxed. But it was thick wax. But it's just really so interesting when you do have such a beautiful history and such a beautiful location, and people are just out there to come and make a name for themselves.
Hmm.
I don't tolerate that either,
Right. Yeah.
and I don't do demons on the show. I don't
Hmm.
go looking for them myself when I'm investigating because you can get one to come to you
Hmm.
and it will
Yeah.
stay with you.
Yeah.
It will be your friend.
And
So,
to your point, we have a lot of friends in the paranormal community, both between Miranda and myself, and then
sure
what
you
we do
do.
here at the jail. And it takes a long time to build a great reputation in the
Yes.
paranormal community. And I think both Ghost Biker and Soul Sisters Paranormal have
Mm-hmm.
a great reputation, and
You
the
do.
jail has a great reputation. And we are not going to lose that because somebody wants to come in and have a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel, and run around screaming demons. And so that is, like I said, the very first team that came in here got the same spiel that we give to every team since you will not mention the word demons in any type of social media, both verbally or audibly or written. And if you do, we will sue you. And
Yeah.
we're very staunch about that. And I think it's served us well because of that. We've had people call us and say, oh, we can put you on the map. We have 100 million followers, and that is great. You can absolutely come here, but we will tell you that the minute you say the word demons,
You're
you're
out.
done. You're done,
Yep.
and we will come after you. We don't hear a word from them. And so that tells me two things: one, that they're only in it for whatever they're in it for, and two, they have no respect for the historical significance of where we're at.
Well,
And
and they have no respect for the spirits
of course,
of the
yeah, oh,
location
absolutely.
because they couldn't care less.
Absolutely. And
It's
like I said, we've come in here and we can go upstairs and talk to the spirits. We know where most of them are on the first, second, and third floor. We will talk to them, and we are very protective of them,
mm-hmm.
and both here and at rugby. And it's one of those things where I think you have to be a location owner to kind of appreciate it, or have a location that you investigate a lot that you're comfortable with, to understand kind of what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
like I said earlier, they're our team. We're a team here. It's Miranda, myself, the spirits, and our jail cat Sally. And I think we all work together to have a very good product is not the word I'm looking for, but a very good
Well, a
presence
very
in
good
the parent.
experience.
Oh,
I mean,
exactly.
because
There you go.
that's an experience. People are
Hmm.
paying for the experience.
Hmm.
If somebody and people can invoke that. If
Hmm.
somebody is going through the jail, they can invoke something into
Hmm.
being. And I don't want to follow that.
Hmm.
I don't want to follow that.
Right.
And, so, because I've gone to a location that was supposed to be just, calm and experiential,
Hmm.
and you're going to have just this activity. This is what's here.
Hmm.
And out of the blue was just like, that's not what's here. I'm
Hmm.
out. I'm not I'm not dealing with this. I'm not
Hmm.
investigating this. I have grandchildren at home. Well, not at my house, but at their house. And but I'm with them and I don't want to be exposed to that.
Right.
And if it's something that somebody brought with them or invoked into being there, which is possible, it's going to be pissed.
Hmm.
I mean, not just a bad guy, but it's going to be mad and or gleeful and looking for something to do. I mean, that's not, I mean, they're real.
Hmm.
That is a real phenomenon. And if you've never experienced one, then you don't understand what you're doing if you're looking for one.
Right, exactly. And I mean, it is. It's all about the intention that you go in with. Like I
Yeah,
said, we've been to some of the most reportedly haunted locations in the country, and
yeah.
I can honestly say I've never experienced anything evil, malicious, demonic, hurtful, anything like that.
Well, I
But
did,
on the
but it was
flip
a
side,
private, a residential.
okay.
And, but, but still, it can be invoked anywhere
Hmm.
if you're looking to do that. And like you said, I don't understand. I guess that you make more money the more clicks you have. I get that. But at what price do you pay to get those? you know, it's not worth that.
I mean, I guess it just depends on your standards, right? I mean, you've got YouTubers out there that are making millions of dollars, and
Yeah,
I literally mean millions of dollars
I know.
because of their followers and such. And when we have a quote unquote celebrity, YouTube celebrity or
Yeah.
whatever, give us a call. We actually do a deep dive
Yeah.
into who they are. We contact other location owners. Hey, what was your experiences with these people? What did they do? Would you have them back? Yes or no? Positive, negative, and we have no problem saying, just this isn't going to be a good fit for you. And that's just because we're extremely protective of what we've built, what we have, and our spirits who reside here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's we're not going to be apologists for it, but that's what we do. That's how we run our operation.
Well, you, that's what I had heard. Okay. I love that. I love that. So when I say that I, I, I don't have just anybody on,
Hmm.
I'm, I've been doing this for a lot of years, and I just don't have just anybody in.
Hmm.
But I love responsible venue owners.
Hmm.
Whether it's a jail, whether it's a hospital, whether it's the I love the village. I can't wait to get to the
The village
village.
ruggery, yeah.
But you know Madison
Hmm.
Infirmary. I mean, all these places that are so far away from me. I have to really work to get there. But it's such an interesting thing,
Yeah.
that everybody has the same standards as a rule. I mean, everybody talks the talk,
Hmm.
and everybody I know that's an actual owner walks the walk.
Hmm.
Now, some people that work with them and stuff, not always, but it's still, you have to do that.
Right. And it is. It's that line, right? That we felt that um, we had to put down there for the very reason, because social media is always changing, right? There's always another platform that's going to come out where people are going to try to make money off of it.
Hmm.
And listen, I am all for it. If that's what you want to do, fantastic, go for it. If that's how you want to project yourself, that is great. But it just won't happen here, and there are other locations that will allow it, but we don't.
Yeah.
But if teams come and that are respectful and want to have a good experience, then this is an amazing place to investigate. Like I said at the top of the hour, we have things happen here all the time. It's interesting. We seem to be a starting off point for teams that have never investigated before. Come on,
Oh,
Sally.
what a great way to start.
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
great.
this is Sally.
Oh, that's
Um,
fine. I
so,
have I have Wally over here, so you may hear him snore later.
Gotcha. And we love that. We love when teams come. I mean, we numerous teams contact us. Hey, we've never done an investigation before. We're a brand new team. We'd love to come to your jail. We've heard great things, and we love people like that. And because honestly, it's so active. I'm not going to say we guarantee, because obviously you can't do that, but
Well, yeah.
I'd say 90% of the teams that come in here get something, whether it's an EVP, whether it's footsteps, to the extreme. Like I said, we've had pictures come off the wall at various things. We've had full body apparitions that people have seen, and it just really runs the gambit here. Even the bathroom that people can use. We had a team here a couple of weeks ago, and this gentleman goes in and uses the restroom. He doesn't turn his voice recorder off. And about 20 minutes later, he's knocking on the door. Listen to this. Listen to this. You're not going to believe this. And while he's doing his business, you hear a woman saying, "Let me out of here," while he's in the bathroom by himself. And so those things happen here, and
That's
it's
so
just it's an
funny.
amazing location just to be a part of and be associated with. And so, like I said, we may come off as hard headed and bullheaded with this one aspect, but on the flip side, I love this place. It's a
Yeah.
great place. I love our spirits, and that's why it's so much fun to be associated with
Well, I can't wait to be there.
it.
So,
But like I said, love to have you.
well, I do want to ask you about something else
Mhm.
because you have another hour.
Yeah, yes, let's go.
But I saw on your site that you are doing a cruise, a haunted cruise at Lake Lanier. Okay,
We
I love Lake Lanier. And if you're doing island hopping,
Mhm.
looking for ghosts at Lake Lanier, you're gonna find them.
Yeah, I you know
What brought that about?
I grew up going to Lake Lanier. I'm from Florida, but my family would go up every year for a holiday.
Yeah.
And so I grew up around Lake Lanier. I love Lake Lanier and the history there. But through the jail, Miranda and I, we do a podcast every week called The Jailhouse Informant. It's every
Hmm.
Thursday. And so we look for guests that have different stories. And we have different series on there. For example, one series is our Jailhouse series, where we talk to other jailhouse owners about what they've done in their location, their historic jail. Um, but we came across this individual who runs Lake Lanier Charters, boat charters, Captain Tom, and so we loved what he was doing. And like I said, we're big proponents of After Dark and historic preservation through After Dark, or paranormal tourism. And so he needed a mechanism to get revenue right during the winter months, because his season is obviously in the summer, where there's millions of people that come and visit Lake Lanier. But
Easily.
obviously in the fall and into the winter, that tourist level drops off. So he was looking for something creative, and he came up with haunted boat tours. And so we had him on the program. Interesting guy to talk to. Knows all the history about the island, about the lake and the islands and all of
Hmm.
that. And so he said, if y'all, whenever y'all want to come down, let's do a boat ride. And so we're going down on the 21st. We'll be at Lake Lanier, both Miranda and myself. So we'll be cruising as Soul Sisters Paranormal and Ghost Biker Explorations.
Okay.
And we've already sold numerous tickets on this cruise. We'll be on the 6:30 p.m. cruise Eastern time, and we're really excited about this. So we're hoping that once we do this first cruise with him, and he runs them through October. He runs them every
Okay.
night. We're hoping that we can form a partnership with him to maybe do a Ghost Biker and Soul Sisters cruise once a month or something like that. So that's kind of where our hope is, that we can form this partnership with him. But it's very interesting. We're really excited about it.
What are you anticipating finding, ghost
Um,
wise
well, we're
or
hoping that
experience wise?
we're hoping to experience some of the claims that are on this island that he's going to take us to. Apparently, there's some Native American activity that happens there. He actually, we're going to take some of our equipment, but for those that aren't into the paranormal or paranormal enthusiasts, he has K2 meters and such that he gives to guests, and they've had some interesting experiences. They've had a few disembodied voices on this island, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be looking for. It's going to be an interesting experience.
Well, I just think that's such a great idea.
I
I
do too.
do.
And again, that is outside the box thinking, right? That you need revenue and you capitalize on these experiences, right? You capitalize on this after dark experience that people are longing for. Like I said, especially since COVID, you
Yes.
have people out there that are looking for two things: a personal experience and a unique experience, and you can give it to them through after dark mechanisms. And so, for him to be able to do this, I love it. I absolutely am 100% behind this idea, this business, this marketing plan of his. So I'm excited to go down and do the cruise next Monday, and to maybe help him grow and do some different things.
Well, I know that he's thrilled that you're coming too, because that's one thing. And Miranda has always been very good because we were not in the same area,
Mhm.
and I kept seeing her on stuff, and I'm like, I keep seeing this name. I don't know her, Miranda. So, and I still haven't met her. I intend to, but I
Yeah.
still haven't met her yet. But her reputation, like yours, is just stellar. I
Well,
mean,
thank
it's
you.
really good. And let's see, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on, Anthony. uh, how does one? Oh, well, okay. This is a great question for you.
Hmm.
He wants to know, how does one find out how to buy places that are active?
Really, Anthony, just ask, right? Find a location that you're interested in in your state or your location, and just start asking. And you'll find that there are places out there that are either abandoned, or that have been sitting vacant for a while. Like I said, the jail that we're in right now, it closed in 2008, and it has been sitting here, not doing anything. Right, what it was doing was costing the taxpayers money, because they were responsible for the upkeep. The taxpayers were responsible for the electricity, for the liability insurance. And what we did is we came in and we took that taxpayer burden off of them. We took the burden on, financially, and we're keeping the building alive and telling the story. So really, if you're interested in the location, just ask and put out feelers. There will be locations out there, that are available, that people are interested in either selling, or go to the property appraiser's office if it's a building that's been sitting vacant, or if a town owns it or something. Go to the property assessor's office, get the contact information, and just put out feelers. And believe me, one will come around.
Well, we've got another question. Um, Anthony said, bring candy or pack or plant seeds.
Hmm.
There you go. But and Tom McNicholas wanted, and hi Tom, wants to know how you control rowdy guests that
Well, if it was up
classes.
to me, if I was on a boat and had a rowdy guest, they'd be going overboard. But
Oh, absolutely. They'd
that is
swim.
for Captain Tom, to decide. We don't run the boat tours. That is not us. That is Captain Tom. He runs those boat tours. We're just guests on this particular boat tour
Yeah.
that he's doing on the 21st. But we would love, like I said, we'd love to partner with him and get something going where maybe we do something once a month or a couple times a year, and allow people to come to investigate with Ghost Biker Explorations and Soul Sisters Paranormal. But as far as rowdy guests here at the jail or at Rugby, if we have somebody that comes in is either rowdy, cutting up, or intoxicated, that is a one-way ticket out the door,
Absolutely,
without a refund. As soon as
especially impaired. I
yep,
mean,
when
you
mhm,
absolutely can.
yep.
And
If once you purchase the ticket, you acknowledge on our little ticket form that you will abide by all rules, or we can escort you out without a refund, and that's how we deal with that. And we've done it. We've done it.
yeah, well, I think every owner has. I mean, because of the mindset for a lot of people when they get there, because I paid to be here, chick,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then you get the burly, rowdy, I'm the He-Man, and I will absolutely, kick these ghosts' butt. And it's like, yeah, you do that, buddy. You
Yeah,
make sure
no,
you tell them, especially up in the cell block. You let them know
right?
that because they're
Yeah.
looking for you. They're excited to have you here. But Anthony also wants to know, the question, is if the place is active only at night or also active in the day. I have not found that places go dormant, because especially
No.
if it's a place of business like this,
Hmm.
right? Because there's always intake and outtake,
Yeah,
outflow.
yeah, listen, every location that I've investigated, we get just as much activity during the day as we do during the
Yes,
night.
me too.
The reason most places investigate at night, so for example, the reason why we allow paranormal investigations here at night is for two reasons. One, we have open daytime business hours. So the after dark is the only time you can investigate. And then two, the senses are just heightened when you're on an investigation. When the lights are out, you're not relying on sight. Your hearing becomes more acute. Your smell becomes more acute. Your sense of touch becomes more acute. And so the nighttime is just a different way to experience that. But that, like I said, that being said, some of our best investigations have been during the day. I've investigated Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia during the day, had some great activity. The Ma Barker House in Central Florida, I've
Mm-hmm.
investigated that numerous times during the day, and a lot of activity, disembodied voices, things moving, shadow figures and apparitions. Those are very active during the day as well. Here at the jail, if you go to our Facebook page, the Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page, there's numerous things that happen during the day. In fact, about 2 weeks ago, Sally, the jail cat, and I were sitting right here. I was working, and right behind me, behind this wall right here, was the intake room. And
Mm-hmm.
we have a display case sitting in there. And I'm just working away on the laptop, and these footsteps start thundering up above. And so Sally ran into the room. I grabbed my phone and ran into the room. She jumps up on the display case, and she's looking around trying to figure out where the footsteps are coming from. And I'm videotaping the whole thing. And this is at 2 in the afternoon. So you can go back and watch that video. You can hear the footsteps. And she and I are the only two physical beings in the building at the time.
Right.
So you can go back and look at that. Right behind this wall right here on the other side, we have an elevator. It's an elevator that has not worked since the 1990s. It is padlocked. If you got to go upstairs, you got to take the stairs. So the elevator doesn't work, and you can't open the doors because they're padlocked. Miranda was locking up one afternoon at about 4 in the afternoon. She walks by the elevator, and something bams on the door from the inside. She grabs her phone, asks it to do it again. It bams on the door from the inside. And then she captured a disembodied voice from inside the elevator. So it happens during the day, Anthony. It's not a nighttime thing.
It's not. Well, I mentioned Old South Pittsburgh. I was there doing an investigation, and I was doing, I was there to do a live feed.
Hmm.
And so this is years and years ago. But the elevator dinged.
Hmm.
Well, those elevators haven't worked since God was a child.
Right?
So, I'm just sitting there and you know, this was the previous incarnation of an owner. But anyway, it was so funny because it didn't dawn on me to be surprised at first because it's such a natural sound to hear in a hospital and I'm
Hmm.
right by the elevator.
Hmm.
And yet it didn't. And everybody was up there where
Hmm.
we were,
Yeah.
including the people that would have keys. Everybody was
Hmm.
up there. So I was just kind of like, well, and I was like,
Yeah.
did anybody else hear that? Like, because Stacy just stopped and she's like, two-side order of grits, right? Like, why are we not talking? But it was so funny because I was clueless for the longest time.
Hmm.
And, Lori in chat will probably say she's investigated with me around the world, Winchester to Paulding to Manchester and, you know, Mansfield and now
Hmm.
two different tours through Scotland. And she still comes with me. So
Hmm.
it's a good thing. She still travels with me. But, and we investigate well together. So that makes it a lot of fun too.
Yes, absolutely. Finding somebody that you can relate to and investigate well with is that's the key, right? So Soul Sisters Paranormal, it's my twin sister and I. So we have some very interesting experiences because of that.
Oh, I bet you do. When you've investigated, first of all, outside of a location that you own or are affiliated with, where is your favorite public place to go?
The USS North Carolina in Wilmington, North
Really?
Carolina. Yeah,
I've heard
um,
that's
th-
awesome.
that battleship is absolutely phenomenal. Just from the historical perspective alone, you're talking about a battleship that was built in 1937 for the
Yeah.
war, and it saw action in every single battle of the Pacific theater of war. And 6 times the Japanese wrote that they sunk her, and it did not happen. And so, in 1961, they turned it into a museum. And just the story about how it became a museum is fascinating to me, right? It was sitting in the docks in New Jersey, and it was going to be turned into scrap metal. And North Carolinians just rallied to save this ship. School kids were giving pennies to buy the ship back for North
Wow.
Carolina. It was led by a man named James Craig, and he just had this vision to bring the North Carolina back to Wilmington. And they bought her. They were bringing her back, and the day before they put her on the dock where she's at right now, James Craig took a helicopter ride up to see from the aerial view where it was going to be, and or a plane trip, and it actually crashed and killed him.
Oh
So
no.
he died the day before this ship that he tried to save was brought back to North Carolina. So just the story alone is just fascinating. But then you get inside and you're walking through this battleship, and you're seeing where all of these men served, and you're down in the torpedo room where the torpedo hit the ship at one point. It's fascinating. It's just absolutely fascinating. But Jenny and I were there. She and I were the only two people on the ship that night, and we were capturing disembodied voices, shadow figures, knocks and bangs, phantom smells that we couldn't account for. We were down in the kitchen, and we were smelling just a strong scent of roses, which we hadn't smelled before. Probably
Wow.
one of the best EVPs that we've ever captured. We had walked while we were setting up our equipment during the night. The doorways going through the ship are kind of narrow, especially when you're holding equipment boxes. So we were banging our elbows, and we just kept saying, "Man, hit it again, hit it again." So we were investigating after we had set everything up. We were investigating, and as a few hours into the investigation, we were going into the medical ward, and you hear me say to Jenny, "Do you want to come in here and do an EVP session? We can set the flare up." And Jenny said, "Sure." And as I walked in, this male goes, "Just watch your arm." And clearly, clear as day, best DVP. It was just it's intelligent.
Yeah.
It just the USS North Carolina. If you haven't been, just go because the history is amazing, the activity is amazing. I cannot recommend that place enough.
Do you know Rick McCullum?
I know him of him. We have not met personally.
He did a film on the on that ship,
Hmm.
and obviously, you know, you should talk to him about that. You should get him on and talk to him about that because
Hmm.
he is he's a fantastic guest. He's like my best guy friend,
Oh.
and he is he loves that ship.
Hmm.
So
I love it too. It's just a fascinating place to go.
yeah, but I was so surprised when he, you know, told me that he was there and that there were things. So you know, it's just cool to hear you talk about that too.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, what made you decide that you wanted to do paranormal investigation?
Honestly, it started as a girls' trip. So my sisters and I, we live in different parts of the country, and growing up, we always had a belief in the paranormal and the afterlife. And we would
Was that
watch.
like a family thing
Mhm,
or?
yeah, our parents were very open minded, just kind of allow us to grow up with our own belief structure, find out what we believed in, and really go with it. I will say that I am a Christian.
Mhm.
I have a belief, a strong belief in God, a strong walk with God. But we started watching these television shows like Taps and
Yeah.
Ghost Hunters and such, and we're all research minded, right? We all have advanced degrees, and so we come at things from a research perspective. And so when we were watching these shows, it'd be like, why didn't they ask this question? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they use
Yeah.
this technique? They should have thought of this. And so we said, if we ever had the chance to go on a paranormal investigation, we'd do that. So in 2012, we went to Moundsville, West Virginia, which is where our mom is from. And
Okay.
our grandpa was actually a prison guard at Moundsville before he became chief of police. And so we had a family friend that sat on the board of Moundsville. And he said, while you're here on your girls' trip, because we all live in different parts of the country and we meet up a couple times a year, he said, while you're here on your girls' trip, why don't you stay the night in the Moundsville Penitentiary and see if you can connect with our spirits? And so we just literally had a couple of voice recorders and just a kid's night vision camera. And we left that experience with some amazing unexplained data. And so we said, let's do this. Let's see if we can find some answers. And then we also wanted to, as best we could, kind of elevate this subculture into a more professional look, right?
Yes.
So every time we go anywhere, we're in polo shorts and slacks. Whenever we do even a walkthrough, right? We really wanted to present a professional front for the paranormal community. And so we came up with the name Soul Sisters Paranormal. We had our logo created, our theme music created, and all of that. And then we just went around the country to different and making that our girls trip,
Hmm.
to do a paranormal investigation, because we get to have this tactile experience with these historical locations. Not many people can say that they've stayed the night in the St. Augustine Lighthouse or Brushy
That's right.
Mountain or the Lizzie Borden House, and you've touched the doorknobs at the Villisca House or something like that. And so that is what really fascinated us. And then to be able to tell that historic narrative in a way that some people may not have heard about, and then coupling that with the paranormal, is really what we strive to do, what we really wanted to do. And so that's what we've been doing.
That is so much fun.
It
I
is. It
mean,
really is.
it really, I love when people do this because it fascinates them as a social thing. Like with Lori and myself, she lives in Ohio, I live in Alabama. We meet places,
Hmm.
like we're going to meet at your location and do all the things and locations. And,
Hmm.
it's just, it's so awesome when you get that connectivity and when the spirits recognize that you're genuine.
Yes,
And
exactly.
it is because it is their option, right? They're not, either they're going to respond to you in a positive fashion, which is always what I prefer.
Hmm.
Doesn't always happen. But but really, as a rule, if you're not a schmuck to them, they're not going to be a schmuck to you either.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
And
absolutely.
it. But if you are, then you deserve what you get.
Hmm. Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, there to us, we don't go in with bravado. We don't go in with provoking. You don't have to.
No.
Someplace like our jail or anywhere, Brushy, Lizzie Borden, Villisca. If you go in with that respect level and really go in from the mindset of you're trying to learn about them. If you watch any of our videos,
Yes.
every video has the line, "We're here to tell your story." We
Yep.
want to tell your story. And that's what we're legitimately wanting to do. And they'll tell you their story. So, for example, let me get to Tom's question real quick, and then I'll
Yes,
go
I
into
was
the
wanting to.
example. When you tell the histories, does that include the paranormal history? So if you're talking about the jail, when you come in to investigate, if you do not want to hear the paranormal claims, or if you don't want to know the paranormal hotspots, that's your prerogative not to hear. What you will hear is the history of the building. And so if you're doing a video and you talk about Richard Ellis, you're going to get the date right of when he died, right? Or that he was a Baptist preacher. You're not going to try to skew the history. We did have one person come in and try to skew the history a little bit, and that's not really what we approve of. So basically, if you want to come into the jail and get the history tour and not paranormal, that is absolutely your prerogative. You don't have to listen to any of the paranormal claims, but the history, you will get that tutorial. Our videos, if you want to watch any of our videos, for Soul Sisters Paranormal, then we tell you all of the history of the location, that historical narrative, and then we do bring in the paranormal claims on those. So if you wanted to watch the USS North Carolina, I do a very detailed history on the North Carolina, and then I'll go into the paranormal claims, and then we try to couple that with what our experiences are. Um,
You know, this is going to sound, I hope it doesn't sound like I'm being condescending, because I'm not. I'm very impressed, and I love your professionalism and your approach to all of this.
well, thank you.
And, but you're nothing like what I expected. I mean,
Well, thank you.
and that's a compliment.
I don't take it as anything
I
but.
mean, there's nothing wrong with what I expected, or you wouldn't be here, right?
Hmm.
But I love your attitude and your determination to create an environment where the museum and history side of that is so well represented. And if you
Hmm.
haven't been there and if you haven't looked at the site, you need to go look at their displays and look at the videos for this jail. But you know, you're so professional,
Oh, thank
which
you.
I did anticipate, but it's fun to hear you as you're sharing, like, about the North Carolina. I mean, bang, boom, bang, boom, bang. Watch your elbows, watch your arms. I mean, because that's what ghosts do,
Again,
right? I
absolutely.
mean, they are not, standing in the corner going, ooh.
Hmm.
They're kind of looking at you going, that's going to leave a mark.
Yeah, it
Somebody
is.
needs to guide her.
But I mean, the
Yeah.
interesting thing about that story is we were walking into the medical ward, right? And so
Yeah.
you expect somebody to say, "Watch your arms," because knucklehead, I don't want to treat you in this
We've been
building,
watching
right?
you. You need some
Yeah,
advice, right?
elbows in, tuck it in.
Yep.
And that's why I love being involved in the paranormal, right? It's such an interesting ride everywhere we
It
go.
is.
And I've never understood this cutthroat mentality in the paranormal community. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but it's
Totally. And I don't get it
people are
either.
so possessive, and it's like, wait a second. I'll go to the USS North Carolina and I will have an amazing experience. I will get EVPs, whatever. You can go to the North Carolina the next night and you'll have a great night, but it'll never be the night that I had,
No,
right? Your
they
EVP
react
will
differently.
not be the same EVP that I got. It
Yeah.
will not be the experience that I have. You'll have your own unique
That's
tapped
just as cool.
experience. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And everyone is unique. It's not going to be this cookie cutter situation. Now, you may capture footsteps here in the jail, and we've heard footsteps numerous times, right? That residual energy,
Hmm.
that's common. But if you can go into the medical ward of the USS North Carolina and have something say, "Just watch your arm," and you can couple it with the fact that you've knocked your elbows every night, that's pretty cool. Or every time you've
Yes.
gone through the door at night. And
Yes.
so it's just one of those things that to me is just so fascinating, because you're getting these positive responses. You're making this connection. And I'm going to go back to the story I was going to tell before we address Tom's question. Is that these spirits, they love to tell their stories, especially here at the jail. But the most telling example that I can give you is the Ma Barker house in Central Florida. Now, this was the site of the 1935 shootout between Ma and Fred Barker and 12 members of the FBI.
Right.
Now, Ma and Fred Barker, the Barker Carpus Gang was one of the most notorious gangs of the Great Depression era. They amassed more money from their bank robberies than all of the other gangs combined.
Oh, wow. I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah, so they're extremely prolific, and so they decided to move from bank robberies to kidnapping because they thought they were going to get more money by kidnapping influential individuals, and they were right, right. So in 1934, they kidnapped a guy by the name of Ed Brimmer, and they got some money from him, or William Ham, and then they kidnapped a guy by the name of Ed Brimmer, and so they got $200,000 from him, and then J. Edgar Hoover was on their trail after that, after they released Bremer. And so, long story short, the gang split up to try to get the heat off. And Ma and Fred Barker went to this little house in Ocklawaha, Florida, and rented this little cabin on Lake Weir, and they hid out from December of 1934 up until January 1935. And in January 16th of 1935, FBI tracked him down, and a gun battle ensued. It was still the longest gun battle in FBI history, and
Wow.
it culminated with Ma and Fred being killed in this upstairs bedroom. Well, fast forward to 2016, the house had been maintained in the family of the original owner up until 2016 when they sold it to Marion County, Florida. So when I found out, because that's where I'm from,
Hmm.
when I found out that Marion County bought it, I wanted to be the first paranormal investigation team to go in and investigate this house. And so it was a 2 night investigation. The first night, we set up all of our paranormal equipment inside the house, and I had pre-recorded questions on an audio recorder, and I left them, and I pushed play, and I left them run throughout the night while we left. I didn't want any personal interference. I wanted the house to just be while we were still asking questions, right?
Yes.
So during the night, we were capturing disembodied voices. We were hearing furniture being moved, and I had complete control of this environment because it sits on 40 acres by itself. You need a 4-wheel drive to get back to this house. I had cameras on the outside, I had cameras on the inside, so we knew we had control of this environment. There
Fun.
was no electricity to it, so there was no interference in any type of EMF interference. Anyway, long story short, that was the first night. The second night, Jenny and I went back, and we were there for about 5 hours, just the two of us. And we were upstairs in the room where Ma and Fred Barker were killed, and we were using the spirit box. Now, a lot of people don't like the spirit box. I tend to like it.
I like it.
Um,
I
yeah, and
mean,
so the spirit box, again, we're on 40 acres in the middle of nowhere. We're not picking up any radio interference on this spirit box. And so the first thing I asked, I said, "Can you say the name Blackburn?" Which was the alias that they used to rent the house. And the spirit box said Blackburn. And I said, "What happened in this room?" And through the spirit box, it said, "They murdered us, we the ones dead." That entire phrase came through. And
whoa.
and to me, that is their story. Their
Yep.
story is the FBI murdered them. And that is one of the controversies of this story, that J. Edgar Hoover and his flying squad went in and just completely annihilated them. So that to me is them telling me their story, that they were murdered by the FBI.
That's why we do this. That's so
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly. And
That's so cool.
yeah, and so I love that investigation. That was a great investigation for us. Same thing here with the jail. Directly across this room was when the sheriff lived here up until the 1970s. That was the master bedroom. So in 1933, we had a mob of people come in. They busted in the door, and they went up and got two of our inmates, took them out about 2 miles from here, and shot and killed them. Well, we had a author write a book about that night, and it's sold in our gift shop. And
Okay.
it's a factual book written from a fictional character standpoint. And so we had a team here one night, and they on the ovilus they got the word anvil, and it came through 3 times. And so they went to Miranda and said, "What does the word anvil have to do with this jail? Is there any significance?" And Miranda said, "Well, we had just that day, that Saturday morning, we had gotten an advance copy of this book that was written about that night, and the fictional character's name in the book is Anvil Clemens. And so Miranda called the author the next day and said,
Oh,
"Why did you name your character Anvil Clemens?" And so he got quiet for a minute because Miranda had told him the story. And he said, "The reason I named him Anvil is because when the mob came through in 1933 that night, they busted in the door and they beat the jailer. They almost killed him. And as they were running upstairs, one of the guys said, 'We beat that boy so bad, looks like he got beat by an anvil.' So his nickname for the rest of his life became Anvil, the jailer. And so we did not know that. The team certainly
wow.
did not know that. But yet we have the obelisk saying the word anvil. So it's like the jail is telling this team, this is an important word in
Wow.
the history of the jail. It's a really cool example of, again, a location telling you answers that you didn't know existed.
I love when that happens, though.
Hmm.
I mean, that is that is astounding.
And that's what our jail does. I mean, like I said, our jail just loves to talk.
Well,
Hmm.
when you said that initially, I was like, oh, well, sure. Yeah, locations do like to let you know what's happened there and stuff like that. But this is true talking.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
This
Like
is
I said,
true talking.
I had never, we'd never known the story of Anvil.
Yeah.
Like I said, this was a Saturday night. That morning we had gotten the advance copy, so we hadn't read the book. We were just thumbing through it and like, oh, this character's name is Anvil. That's pretty cool. And
Wow.
that was pretty really the extent of it until the team came out and said, the obelisk never says three words, boom, boom, boom. But yet it said Anvil. Is that significant in any way? And apparently it was.
That is so awesome.
Hmm.
So, what else does your gel tell you?
Well,
This
like I
is
said,
fun. I love it.
I'd say probably about when the teams get things and we get things, I'd say it's about 85% intelligent. We
Mm,
do have a lot of residual footsteps, mostly
yeah.
whistling, coughing, humming. Those things I think are residual. But we had a team here, and again, this was from the jail was in operation from 1904 up until 2008, and so we're still finding things in the jail, and by that I mean like shanks and shivs and different things like that. So we had a team here last year that was upstairs, and obviously they were using their flashlights, and they saw a glint in a crack in the brick, and they pulled out a
Oh,
razor.
oh my gosh.
So we're still finding things, right? So the light fixtures on the second and third floor are the original light fixtures. So they're hanging down just a little bit. They're not flush with the ceiling. They kind of hang down, and so there's a little gap between the light and the ceiling. Um, so we had a team here one night, and there's one cell upstairs where if you step on the bunk, you can feel the light. And so I don't know what prompted them to do this, but there was one of the ladies that they were doing the Estes method upstairs on that third floor, and one of the ladies had the blindfold on and she had the noise canceling headphones on, listening to the spirit box, so she doesn't know what's going on around her. So while they're doing the Estes method, another lady just jumped up on the bunk and she's for whatever reason running her hand over the light, and she found a comb that somebody had put up there. And as soon as she pulled it out, the woman doing the Estes method said, "Put it back," just like that. And she's like, "All right, well, I'll go ahead and put it back." Um,
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah, so that's kind of interesting. Like I said, we just had different responses. The like I said earlier, the bathroom is extremely active. It used to be a drunk tank, and so it's been converted into the working bathroom for the jail that guests can use. And so people will go in there to use the facilities, and they'll hear disembodied voices, crying, moaning. Typically, a woman will speak, which is kind of interesting. Um, Again, disembodied shadow figures are seen on the second and third floor, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it just it just likes to talk.
I love that.
Hmm.
It's so fun when you go someplace that's interactive
Yes,
by
very much so.
itself,
Hmm.
and it's I mean, my friend's jail in Paulding, I pissed the whole jail off. So that was fun. Said no one ever, but and I had to spend the night there. But you know, and shower. It was so much fun. But it was really cool because after they got through being upset, we came to an understanding, and I've always been welcomed by them
Oh,
since then.
nice.
There was an event that I couldn't go to and was supposed to have, and all of my friends but me were there. And I called, you know, they called to tell me, hey, we're here, we're doing this, that, and the other. And it was so funny because because ever since I made them mad, every time I get there, I just go to the first floor cell block, stand in the doorway, and say, "Hey guys, it's Kat. I'm back. Hope everybody's good."
Hmm.
And then I go, but I always announce myself
Yep.
because
Yep.
not going to take any chances there ever again. So, but they let me come back. They like me, so that's
Hmm.
good. But while I was on the phone, it was Rick
Okay.
McCullough, my
Yeah.
friend Lori, my friend Mikey, who we also travel with.
Hmm.
And so it was so funny because while I'm on the phone, and I said, "Where are you?" And they said, "Well, we're in this first floor cell block." I was like, "Oh well, hey guys, it's Kat. I'm sorry I'm not there. I'm sick. I couldn't come. Blah blah blah." And the K2 starts going off.
Oh, cool.
And so Rick McCollum tells the story every time he talks to anybody, I reckon, that, yeah, she's the only person I know that Ghost will talk to on the phone. And I'm like, well, they
That's
didn't really,
cool.
yeah, but, they do recognize people and they do
Hmm.
recognize energy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what, I mean, I know that you had that experience on the North Carolina, but have you ever had another place that it was such a personal interaction?
We've had a lot of locations where we get responses that are directed at us, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting. I wouldn't say like a personal connection per se, but it's interesting. The way we conduct our investigations, we put up a lot of stationary equipment, so cameras as well as voice recorders. And when we go back and listen to it, I listen to it in the raw. I don't put it through any software. I
Yeah.
literally plug in headphones and I hit play. So if I've got 10 voice recorders running for 10 hours, I'm listening to 100 hours of audio.
Okay.
And I feel that that's just how I do an evidence review. Anyway, we've experienced a lot of interaction that is injected into our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what we get is almost like the spirits are saying, even if we don't hear them in the moment, it's that interjection of I want to be part of this conversation.
Yes.
So, for
Yes.
example, we were at the Lizzie Borden house. And so there are five of us that night. My two sisters, Miranda from Ghost Biker, and our friend Cara. And so we had rented the entire house, right? So we're staying the night there. And this was even during while we were still setting up. So the very first thing that we always do, even if we're bringing in our luggage, is voice recorders go out and they're
Yes.
recording. And so we've got them throughout the house. And so we're still bringing in our luggage. And so Miranda and I are upstairs. Michelle is in off one of the rooms off to the side there, and Jenny and Cara are sitting in the room where Andrew Borden was killed. And so they're just sitting there talking, right? Just having a conversation about the day, about our travel up there. And then they started going into the conversation of being in an axe murder house. Now we had already investigated the Villisca axe murder house,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're talking about the differences between Villisca and the Lizzie Borden house. And Cara says, "Well, either way, being axed to death would be a horrible way to die." And a man's voice says, "It was."
Oh,
And now they didn't hear it in the moment, but we captured
right.
it on the audio. And so it's just a very interesting interaction. And then about an hour later, Jenny and Michelle are talking, and we captured a man's voice saying, "I'm standing right here next to you." Again, they're just talking about whatever, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
even about the investigation. They're just talking about the day. So we get a lot of those things. Like
Yes.
I'm here with you. I'm trying to interject with you. I'm trying to interact with you. Unfortunately, we just couldn't hear it in the moment, but we captured it on audio. Um, we seem to have a lot we're an all-female team,
Mm-hmm.
so we seem to have a lot of interaction with children. They seem to be very, very receptive to us because I just feel that females by our nature we're a little bit more empathetic, and I think that's why children feel connected to us as a group. um, so yeah, those are the type of things that we get. I wouldn't say they're on a personal level, but they're more of a I want to be included in this conversation
Yeah.
level.
Yeah. And I get that too. And I am the world's worst. I will always forget to review a recorder or, and then when I'm getting ready to go, because I download and I'll find one that I didn't dump, right?
Yeah.
And so I always play it, because I always play while I'm doing stuff.
Hmm.
And it's because otherwise I'll fall asleep while I'm reviewing. But if I hear something, because I can multitask and I
Yeah.
actually focus better that way.
Hmm.
But I'm ADD. It works. But it always blows my mind
Hmm.
that it's always that one recorder,
Yeah.
the, the one I didn't go through,
Right.
and it's like and I didn't review it right off the bat. I got a three voice EVP from Sloss one afternoon,
Oh wow.
and and it was just a random thing. I'd gone back down to make sure I didn't leave anything there, and as I'm starting to come back up, I heard people moving around the impellers and stuff, but there wasn't anyone there.
Hmm.
So, because it was a nasty day, I was the only one stupid enough to still be there. But it was so funny because I just, I had my recorder in my hand and I just said, "Who is up there walking around over me?" And never checked it.
Ah.
And so, fortunately, I didn't just erase it. I realized that it had fresh files,
Hmm.
and because I always set them back to zero.
Right. Right. Of
But
course.
so I was just like, oh my god. And it was direct answers, and they were mocking each other.
Hmm.
So, hi Gary. So, that's paranormal pastor is our friend Gary.
Hey, Gary.
But it was just so trippy, and I get you. I mean,
Hmm.
you. I wish. Sometimes I can feel the energy, and I know somebody's there with me, but I'm not a psychic.
Hmm.
And definitely not a medium because I don't want to see. I
Yeah.
don't want death states. I'm terrified of seeing a death state. So I'm just like, don't show me. I'm so sorry. You can talk to me,
Hmm.
but don't show me this.
Right.
So they do respect that.
Yeah. No.
And, it's just kind of a weird thing that it's always the one I didn't listen to that has the
Oh.
most evidence on it. So that's why I never, I never clear something without making sure I've got a backup on it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what makes it tough for what we do,
Yeah.
like we do put everything on our YouTube channel, Soul Sisters Paranormal, so all of our videos are there, but it's not this instant gratification, right? It takes a couple months from investigation to getting a video out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And another thing that we do is we don't monetize. The reason is because I don't want people to come and say, well, you got that EVP, you made that up because you want clicks or subscribers. No,
Yeah.
not because it doesn't do me any good anyway. I'm not monetized. And so we've done that on purpose. And I think that type of transparency is I think necessary in if you're a paranormal investigator, a true paranormal investigator that is in it for historic preservation and to tell that paranormal story and that narrative.
And the experience.
Hmm. Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
because I, and I don't normally share my evidence because it's what I want to do,
Hmm.
but it's really fun. Um, I mean, I share it with my friends that I'm
Hmm.
investigating with, but I really just, because I'm looking for my answers, I'm looking for
Right.
my truth. And I mean, I do two shows.
Hmm.
I'm I'm a busy, I've got grandchildren in sports. I've got
Right.
stuff that I do,
Right.
and I do it because I want to know.
Hmm. Yeah.
And when I was younger, I was much more sensitive than I am now, and I'm finding that as I hit this stage of life, I'm getting there again.
Okay. Yeah.
So, it's just kind of like there was no noise, right, when I was young because I'm
Hmm.
old. And so, it was, and I had a grandma that supported, she was into Gene Dixon and New Age before that was even a thing.
Hmm.
So it was because we were both Scorpios, and to her that meant something. Okay.
Right.
And it's actually true. But, because I do think that the sensitivity is stronger with certain signs. I think it's with certain
Hmm.
backgrounds also.
Hmm.
And it's just trippy. I
Yeah.
will I will know things with no idea how I know them, but I'm not a psychic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I can't turn that off and on. It's not something that will always happen. Do
Right.
you have like gifts like that? Do
Um,
you do you just do this?
not necessarily like a psychic or a medium gift. I am a twin, so Jenny and I, we do have a different connection than I think most siblings or close friends do.
Absolutely.
I there's things that have happened between us. She's when she's a state away or something like that. There'll be times when I'll just call her instinctively, and something has happened, or she'll call me. So that makes it interesting to investigate with her as well, because we're kind of on that same wavelength, and it's kind of like we can go into an investigation and not even really have to talk. We know exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and so that makes it kind of very cool. I love investigating with her. She's my best friend.
Yeah.
Um, but as
Well, you
far
shared a
as
room together for a while.
yeah, exactly. We're roommates, and so so that's really cool. So she and I have a connection, but as far as on an investigation, there are certain things that have started to happen over the last few years. For example, for me, it's my right leg. If it starts to kind of feel like it's gone to sleep, like that tingly feeling, it usually indicates to me that something is going to happen, whether an
Oh.
EVP or we're going to sense something. That's usually where I can say, okay, we need to start really paying attention here. But I don't want to claim that as being psychic or empathic or anything
But
like that.
that's
It's
interesting
just, I mean, it
because you do have a
is.
tell.
It is. So I've started to trust that over the last couple of years. But as far as anything else, we really come at it, like I said, from a scientific standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
We've because, and I'm not saying this to be boastful, but like I said, we have advanced degrees, so we've always been in research. That's what we do. That's how we went through school, is doing research, and so we come at it from that angle, probably a lot more so than going in and feeling something. I think we go in with more of a debunking type of an attitude
Mm-hmm.
than anything else. And and once if we capture something on either audio or video, I mean, we go through it together and just like, do you hear this? Do you hear this? What are you hearing? What are you thinking? And we always wear body cameras, so we have a timestamp of where everybody is, so we can cross reference and make sure that it's not one of us. Um, so we do a lot of cross referencing on different pieces of audio before we even put anything out, and so that's kind of how we investigate. But as far as anything psychic, no, I don't believe we have any of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't. And I will
Yeah.
tell you that the mediumship thing, I um I met a young woman, gosh, almost 2 years ago now, and I had her on my show. She's freaking astounding because Rick had referred her to me,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, and he's like, no, really, really, and the woman, you know, we got on the phone and she's like, do you want a reading or do you want to have me on your show? I said, well, if you I don't know how to answer that. I'd love to have you on my show, but I'd like to know that you're genuine
Hmm.
before I tell people, listen to her. So she's like, well, you have a lot of dogs around you. And I'm like, well, you can look at my Facebook and know that, right? So, I mean, because like 10, 15 years of dogs.
Hmm.
But she so, and it wasn't the dog I expected her to say. So that was wild. But then
Wow.
she said, well, you have people with you too. And she went to names, and two of them have never been connected to me on social media anywhere.
Wow.
So I was just, and I don't give tells when somebody's doing that because, again, if I'm hosting them, I need to know that
Right.
they're legit.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, this person is here. And I said, I know him. I would say, I know that name. And then she said, and then this one, I was like, I know that one. And then she was like, and then another name, which I would never have expected to be there. I was like, I know him.
Oh, wow.
And then there was a message attached to that. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. And she's like, well, if you if you don't want them to be around, you need to do what they asked you to do. And
Wow.
I'm like, well, that's not happening because it was a message to reach out to somebody that I don't associate with anymore,
Wow.
and that mattered to them. And
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I guess we're going to spend time together then. You
Wow.
guys and me. But and I finally succumbed and sent a text message, so that was a good thing
Yeah.
because it was easy. But you
Yeah,
know,
I think the probably the closest that I've come to something like that, and this is kind of an interesting story. I was very close with my nana, my dad's mom. In fact, I'm named after her. And so growing up, I was extremely close. In fact, my other cousins would say I was Nana's favorite. But uh,
yeah,
one night, and she was married to my granddaddy. That there's one of those they're one true love type of situations. But granddaddy died in 1986, and so this was 2015. I had this dream, and it was such a vivid dream. I mean, my granddaddy came to me in this dream, and the first night I had it. It scared me because it was in a certain room in their house, and he had come out of this room, which was his office, and he looks at me and he makes this moan, and he turns and he walks through a wall. And so I woke up like almost like a nightmare.
what?
And so it happened twice more. And so finally I was talking to my mom and I said, for the last 2 nights or 3 nights, I've had this dream where granddaddy has come to me in this dream, and it's scared me. But I can tell you what he smelled like, how his drawstring was tied on his pants, his shirt, all of this. It was so vivid. And my mom just off the cuff said, well, ask him what he wants. And so I had the dream again the next night. And in the dream, I said, granddaddy, what do you want? And he looks at me and he said, I'm waiting on your Nana. You're going to be getting a call soon. And he turns and he walks out of the wall. And I told this to mom, but what do you do with that, right? I mean, I don't know what
Yeah.
that information means. And so I just kind of chalk it up to whatever. So about 2 weeks later, my dad got a call that my Nana was in an accident, and she broke her hip. And so she had to go to the hospital, and she had her hip replaced and all of that. But she ended up developing MRSA. And so that took her down really fast. So she was in hospice. So we moved her to hospice, and she was in hospice for about 2 weeks, which is pretty long for hospice. But during that time, we'd go in and visit her, and she'd have her lucid days where she'd say that, I saw granddaddy last night and all this other stuff. So finally, she ended up passing. And so we're all there. And this is literally 3 hours after she passed. And I look around, my family's all there. And I looked at Jenny and I said, I know where she's going. She's going to the house to meet up with granddaddy. And my family knows what I do and what Jenny does. And I said, with permission from my family, I said, can I go to the house and take some equipment? And everybody's like, sure, go.
Sure.
And so we went to the house that was depicted in the dream. We stood in the spot where I had the dream, or where that was depicted in the dream, right outside of his office. I had two K2 meters, a gray one and a black one. I said, Nana, are you here? Boom, both those K2 meters are just going crazy. And I said, okay, stop and just go to the black one. Just the black one went nuts.
Oh,
And they're within 2 feet of each other. And I said, okay, stop on that one. I'll go to the gray one. Boom, the gray one's just going nuts. And I said, are you here with Granddaddy? Boom, everything's going nuts. I said, are you okay? Boom, everything's going nuts. And I said, are you guys going to transition together? Boom, everything's going nuts. And I said, okay, that's all I needed to know. And so that brought me peace, right? I mean, like I
That's
said,
good.
I was so peaceful in that moment because I knew he was waiting on her,
Hmm.
and she went over and met with him, and they moved on together because the next week, because we wanted to verify, Jenny and I went back, stood in the exact same spot with the exact same tools, and asked the exact same questions, and nothing, not one blip happened on those things. And it was that to me was the just the one story that really, like I said, put my mind at ease. I knew she was okay. I knew Granddaddy was okay. And now I know that they're not spirits, they're not ghosts anymore, right? They've
Yeah.
moved on to what's next. I'll call it heaven because I'm a Christian.
Yes.
They've moved on, but he was waiting on her. And so that to me is what, one of the theories as to why some of these spirits remain, right? They're waiting on somebody or something to be fulfilled before they can move on. And I think Nana was Granddaddy's unfinished business. He was waiting on
Absolutely.
her. So
Well, he
that's the
told you.
closest story that I have.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's probably the most beautiful story I've heard.
Yeah, it was like I said, I've never experienced a dream like that before. Like I said, I can tell you the pictures on the wall behind him, and the way his shirt was buttoned, and his, like I said, his drawstrings. He was barefoot, and it was amazing. So to me, that was a really cool gift,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I think
Total.
somebody knew that I was going to take Nana's passing really hard,
Yeah.
and so that, like I said, that was
Well,
one thing that really kind of put my mind at ease.
and yeah, you had time to get there.
Hmm.
He gave you time
Hmm.
to get there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I just think that's I just think it's beautiful.
Hmm. And when we get the questions, why are we only seeing people from the 1700s or the 1800s? We're not, right? And I literally, like I said, it was 3 hours after she passed. I left right from hospice, and we went right over, and
Yeah.
so that was an interesting experience.
I'm so glad you shared that because,
Oh.
that's very personal,
Hmm.
but very cool.
Yeah.
And I just think that people, people are always scared of spirits. That's why a lot of people ghost hunt,
Hmm.
and I prefer investigate because I don't want to be
Yeah.
hunted.
Right. Exactly.
So
It's
that's just
investigations.
me. But, you know, it's, we're looking for those experiences. And it's not, when it's somebody that you love,
Hmm.
it's so much better.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely more personal.
Yeah.
But again, when you have some place like this where you have like the jail,
Well,
where
they
you
are
have that
yours.
connection to it, yeah, when you have that connection to them, that's just as profound. When you have somebody talking to you, and you know that you're the only person here, you have somebody whistling. We had a really cool example one night. Um, when paranormal investigators come, they get the jail until 3:30, and so the team that night had left. It was about 3:30 in the morning, between 3 and 3:30 in the morning, and so the team had left, and Miranda was here locking up, and so she was walking from our gift shop, which is that way, and she was coming back into this room, and so as she's walking, there's a foyer right there. So as she's walking, she hears somebody humming. They hum for about 6 seconds, clear their throat, and start humming again. And so, Miranda was like, okay. So she goes back into the gift shop room, and we have a security camera in there. So she calls me at 3:30 in the morning and said, "You're not going to believe this. I heard this guy. He was humming. It was so loud. It was so clear. It was right here. He cleared his throat." And I said, "Well, we have security cameras in the gift shop. When I get into the jail in the morning, I'll check the cameras and see if we capture the humming." And so when you see the footage, and it's on our Facebook page if you want to go look at it, when you see the footage, she comes back into the gift shop room, and she's kind of like frazzled, not because she's scared, but she's startled that she just heard this humming. So she seems a little frazzled, and so we didn't capture the humming. But as she walks into the room, we captured two voices. The first one said, there she is. And the next one said, not so loud next time. Like, there she, oh, sorry, there she is, but don't hum so loud next time. But
Oh my gosh.
it was two very distinct voices. And so it was really a really cool capture.
That
But
is
again,
so cool.
that's what happens here. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to get there. I'm going to have, Lori and I are going to have to coordinate our schedules so that we can
Hmm.
do that. I already told my husband we're coming.
Oh, there you go. And
So,
if you stay at Rugby, because Rugby actually has lodging in the
okay.
village of Rugby, and the houses they all have activity. So if you want to message me, we can
I will.
kind of help you coordinate that if you'd like. But a lot of investigators when they come to this area, because we're a little remote here in rural Tennessee, they do a 2-night investigation. Well, they'll stay at Rugby for 2 nights, and then they'll investigate the jail one night and Rugby the next night.
Okay. Good to know.
Hmm.
And for everyone listening, you got the info. Don't don't be fussy if you don't remember. Just reach out to her.
Yeah, yeah. Just reach out. Yeah.
So, I'm so absolutely thrilled to have you on.
Oh,
This
thank
has
you.
been fun for me. And tell people where they can find you, your social media, whatever.
Yep, absolutely. So if you're interested in the Historic Scott County Jail, our website is www.historicscottcojail.com. Our Facebook page is Historic Scott County Jail, and all the information that you need about the jail is there. We also have evidence that people have captured, that we've captured, all up on our Facebook page. If you want any information, any further information, just message us. If you're interested in Historic Rugby After Dark, the Facebook page is Historic Rugby After Dark. You can also
Plain and
go.
simple.
Yep, yep. Historic Rugby After Dark is the Facebook page. And so, again, you can find all the information there about guided ghost hunts, paranormal investigations. Again, if you want any other information, just message us. If you're interested in Soul Sisters Paranormal, you can go to soulsistersparanormal.com. Everything that you need to know about us is there. All the investigations that we've gone on. I will be releasing another video here next week from the old hospital on College Hill, which I'm really excited about. So soulsistersparanormal.com or Soul Sisters Paranormal on YouTube. And then my business partner is Ghost Biker Exploration. She's Miranda Young. So if you go to Ghost Biker Exploration's Facebook page or www.ghostbikerexplorations.com, you can find out all the information about her website as well.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
am just so really glad that this worked out. And I
Same.
can't wait to meet you face to face
Yeah, it'll be
and
fun.
just, you know, share a cup or a meal or whatever you have
Mhm.
up there.
It's slim pickings, and depending on the day, some things may not be open. But yeah, we'll definitely find something. Either go get a takeaway or whatever, and bring it back here. We
Whatever.
can do that.
I'm good
Yeah,
with whatever.
yeah.
And so, for everyone else listening, you got the scoop. This is a
Hmm.
great place to go. These are great people to go with. And I can't wait to hear Wally scratch. So, Wally the Collie. Yes, indeed.
Aw,
But he's our newest
oh,
and
that's so
he's our
cute.
biggest ever. So, and now that I don't know why he did that 2 minutes before we go off the air, but I guess he just wanted to be known.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's
Well,
new.
like Sally.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. But I just have enjoyed our conversation so much. Thank you.
Likewise. Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure, and I just appreciate you highlighting the jail and Soul Sisters Paranormal and everything else we got going
Oh,
on.
your logo, your Soul Sisters logo, that
Hmm.
is so pretty. I wanted to make sure I
Oh,
told you that. I
oh,
love your logo.
thank you. I appreciate
So,
that. Yeah, I actually sat down with a tattoo artist and had we designed that because there are certain elements that I wanted to include in that.
mhm.
So everything in there is symbolic. So like the keyholes is for exploration. The cross on the forehead is for our religious beliefs. The wings are because we're all female, and the heart on the chin is for love. So
It's
yeah, we
beautiful.
definitely sat down and had a really good time designing that.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to make sure you didn't get out of here without me telling you that.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm real proud of it. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure thing. And everybody else, thank you so much. We sure do appreciate you being here. And, you know, like I always say, Sunday nights are Fate Mag Radio. Be sure and tune in because we've got some great stuff coming up. And as far as paranormal experience goes, we will see you same cat time, same cat channel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kat.
Namaste. Good night.
Good night, everybody.